Cloudy. My name is Cloudy. Go back to the channel. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't seen my past video, make sure you go and check out my past videos. You know what I'm saying? And share with your homies, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure they'll enjoy my 2 cents. You know what I'm saying? And let me know what other things y'all want me to react to, because I know there's a lot of other things that have comics. You know what I'm saying? And now that I realize that it's other than just Marvel and DC, you know what I'm saying, I can actually expand on some things if I want to, you know what I'm saying? So let me know what other stuff y'all want me to touch on, because I love TV shows and all that in general. So if it's something that has to do with that, put me on, bro. We'll react to some stuff, you know what I'm saying? But today, we got a video from Everything Always. We just solved Avenger Doomsday, Iron Man Infinity Stone Prophecy.
Alright guys, we've got to talk about something. Avengers Doomsday is being billed as a direct sequel to Avengers Endgame, and as evidence of this, in the very first preview trailer, we see a much younger Steve Rogers than the old man Cap that presented Sam.
I've seen the trailers, not all of them, but the reason why I haven't reacted to it, bro, is because, like I said before, if y'all ain't seen my other videos, I'm a small channel, you know what I'm saying? I'm still growing. I ain't trying to get hit with no copyright strikes, you know what I'm saying? So I've been walking on eggshells a little bit, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little scared. I've been seeing other channels do it, but those channels, they probably got ties, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
With the shield at the end of the film, implying that we're picking up sometime shortly after Cap returned Mjolnir and the Infinity Stones and decided to start a family with Peggy Carter. But that isn't the only narrative gap in Act 3 of Avengers Endgame. The other huge after Cap returned Mjolnir at the end of the film, implying that we're picking up sometime shortly after Cap returned Mjolnir and the Infinity Stones and decided to start a family with Peggy Carter.
Where we're gonna start
that isn't the only narrative gap in Act 3 of Avengers Endgame. The other huge one has to do directly with Tony Stark and what happened in between them obtaining the Infinity Stones and Tony creating a fully fabricated and functional Stark Tech Infinity Gauntlet. And this coming from the guy who nearly ended Earth's population with simply one Infinity Stone during Age of Ultron. Are we really supposed to believe that he ignored the fact that he had all of the Infinity Stones in one place at the same time and didn't delve into the unlimited possibilities with the stones while...
Bro, I'm not gonna lie, bro. That's actually a good thing to point out, bro. Tony Stark, tech genius, bro. You know what I'm saying? He has some of the most... He has the most powerful things in his possession, bro. You telling me he ain't explored, possibly trying to see if he could put one of the energy stones in one of his suits, or... You know what I mean? Like, you don't think he try to explore any of that, bro? Bro got a point, you know what I'm saying? And it is possible that they cut a part of that scene out so they could show it in Doomsday as like a flashback. I do too believe that he did try to see what he could do with those stones. You know, see if he could add one of those stones' powers to his suits, or see if he can use one of the stones to help him with his with his thing. But I think by the time he didn't have the little thing on his chest no more, right? Didn't he get, when did he get surgery to get a real heart again? You know what I'm saying? But you know, I do think Tony Stark did try to explore what he could do with those stones, bro.
They were in his possession, knowing very well what they were capable of when they were all combined. We're going to break down this insane theory about how that one missing gap of scenes that the Russos chose not to show during Avengers Endgame actually sets up what's about to come in Avengers Doomsday. Now, we're going to touch on several Easter eggs throughout the Infinity and the Multiverse saga alike, but really this theory entirely hinges on the fact that we are going back to Avengers Endgame, as important as the end of the film is now to setting up Avengers Doomsday. Leaks and rumors throughout the year have heavily implied that Steve Rogers may have caused an incursion by not returning to the 616 proper time, instead staying back in time with Peggy Carter, having a child and living his life out.
Didn't I say this, bro, in my past videos, bro? Steve Rogers had to have caused one of the biggest incursions, or maybe he probably even caused the first incursion, because he went back in time. Maybe when he went back in time, he created an incursion in that time that he went back with Peggy, and that could have been the very first incursion. Maybe, I don't know. Just a theory. But if it ain't the first incursion, maybe it's the incursion that is connected to Dr. Doom, the incursion that, you know, possibly destroyed his family or something like that. Because remember, allegedly the story is Dr. Doom is going after Steve Rogers because the incursion he caused killed his family or something like that. You know, like it's a part of that. Like, that's part of the reason why he's chasing after Steve Rogers, because he hurt his family and caused an incursion. You know what I'm saying? But he also want to go after Steve Rogers because the incursion that he caused, apart from just his family. Like y'all can't tell me y'all wouldn't enjoy seeing a Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers movie, bro. Just seeing everything that happened in that timeline. Because it is possible they might put a lot of that stuff in Avenger Doomsday, bro. Especially if Steve Rogers is a main character. They might show hella scenes from when he was with Peggy, to the point where it's like, well, it's no point to really make a movie. We seen pretty much what he was doing over there, you know what I mean? We get the gist of it. But I do think they can make a movie, bro. I don't think it will be a money grab either. I think it would just be a smart move to make another Captain America movie, but with Peggy. Because I want to see what happened. I want to see his son get older. You know what I'm saying? I want to know if his son is like the one in that animated TV show that I watched.
And there was certainly a notable demand for the Russos to fill in these blanks. We were hearing rumors about a Nomad series or TV show where they would fill in that time gap. And it's pretty clear now that since that show didn't happen, they're going to wrap that part of the storyline into Steve Rogers returning and explain it during the beginning of Avengers Doomsday, which sort of galvanizes the fact they're going to do the exact same thing with Tony Stark, only because our lead antagonist in Doctor Doom looks exactly like him. The Russos have confirmed that will be addressed, and Anthony Mackie, in a very early quote about what's going on in the film, indicated this would pick up in the emotional aftermath of Tony Stark's death. And the theory follows like this. After obtaining the Infinity Stones, Stark would know one key fact, told to him by Doctor Strange, maybe one of the only...
Did Tony Stark know that Doctor Strange was probably lying to him about the possibilities and only there being one where they'd succeed? Or maybe that Doctor Doom, like he knows what he knows what Doctor Strange isn't telling them. You know how, because if I believe correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doctor Strange was kind of letting them know, like, I can't tell y'all what I saw, but I can let you know that there's only one possibility that worked, but I can't tell y'all what, because it might mess some things up. What if Tony Stark, when he was messing with them stones and stuff, what if when he, I don't know, let's say he touched the time stone, you know what I'm saying, or somehow, it let him see a lot of the possibilities that Doctor Strange also saw. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? What if Doctor Doom really is our Tony Stark variation, and he decided to become Doctor Doom based off everything he saw?
He would have access to as they were trying to pull off the time heist and then unsnap and bring everybody back in the blip. He was told by Doctor Strange that he only saw 1 in 14,605 outcomes where they actually won.
That's a lot of outcomes.
So even though they had obtained all of the Infinity Stones and the mind that Tony has, he would still be working under the presumption that they still had a 1 in 14,605 chance.
Oh, okay.
And that would certainly lead him to want to investigate the Infinity Stones for possibilities on how they can...
Well, there it is there. We can say he most likely, there's a 90% chance he did actually see what's up with them stones. Especially if Doctor Strange, it happened after Doctor Strange told him this. 100% I'm sure he decided to look himself too, to see if he can tap into the time stone and look himself. Maybe. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. I don't know, bro. I hope this is all revealed in Doomsday though, bro. I really do, bro, because Tony Stark being one of the smartest characters in Marvel, you know what I'm saying? I would think he would look to see if there's any other possibilities that Doctor Strange probably missed. You know what I'm saying? Not just because he's like, I don't trust Doctor Strange, but just because he's like, I'm smart too. Like, maybe he might have missed something that I could catch, And I think Tony Stark is smart enough, and maybe he don't even have to be smart enough to tap into the time stone. Maybe all he got to do is touch it. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe, like I said, he's smart enough. I think he probably found a way to tap into the time stone to see all the possibilities. Somehow, some way. I don't know how. But Tony Stark did something with them stones before he decided to make the gauntlet, bro. He had to have. I don't think he haven't. You know what I'm saying? That's not the Tony Stark I know, bro. The Tony Stark I know, he'll look into it too if he had the chance.
Achieve this to make sure they're on the one true path. You have to imagine this was always at the front of his mind, because as soon as he sees Doctor Strange in the third act of Avengers Endgame, that's exactly what he goes to. No introductions, no hugs like he gave Peter Parker, simply, you saw 14,605 outcomes, is this the one we win? That was at the front of his mind and driving his entire purpose the entire time. Now, clearly, he understood the consequences of misusing the stones, as he explains to Hulk right before Hulk does the snap in the first place, saying you're only bringing everybody back today, not changing anything else. But under the presumption that he would have wanted to make...
See, but then I'm thinking too, how would he know stuff like that unless he actually looked up, did his research, you know what I'm saying, when he had the stones himself? I mean, he could have did the research before he even got the stones. It's Tony Stark, you know what I'm saying? But I'm thinking when he had the stones, he could have did better research because they're right in front of him, you know what I'm saying? He could really analyze them with all the tech and,
Sure, they were on the path for the 1 in 14,605,000, and while he had all of the Infinity Stones in the lab being analyzed in order to fabricate the Stark Tech Gauntlet, you have to imagine he may have been tempted to use the Time Stone himself to see all of these possible outcomes if he could.
I don't watch my videos, bro. I just said, bro, come on, man. We here, bro. Me and All Fires is right here.
Again, only to make sure they were on the path of 1 in 14,605,000.
Bedwetting only happens to kids who are not.
Now, is it possible that Tony Stark was even able to access the Infinity Stone in the way that Doctor Strange did to see all of these outcomes? That's an interesting conjecture. And while I would argue that Doctor Strange certainly needed magic and spells in order to activate the Time Stone through the Eye of Agamotto, it's also proven in canon that anybody who obtains an Infinity Stone certainly seems like they're able to use it when and if obtained, if and then they can wield it. And in this instance, with the lab, the Stark Tech Infinity Gauntlet, the nanotech, I think he certainly would have been able to access information about the stones at the very least, and maybe even some of their capabilities. Now, in that, if he were to see these possible outcomes, it means he saw one of two things. There is a chance that across the multiverse, he saw Thanos being defeated, as we saw during Multiverse of Madness in the 838, in multiple ways that didn't require him dying. But I think a lot more likely the case, Doctor Strange was telling the truth. As skeptical as Tony always was of Doctor Strange, he was telling him the truth. And that means there's a possibility that Tony Stark foresaw his own death while using the Time Stone, trying to figure out which one of these paths they should be on. And in that may have caused him to access the other stones to see if there was a way he could circumvent this, which I think would have caused him to focus in on the Soul Stone. Now, this may have been why the deleted scene with him seeing his daughter in the Soul World
did see this. That's crazy. I did see this deleted scene, bro. I thought this was fake. But now bro's bringing this up, bro. Bro, Tony Stark survived, bro. He found a way to get past, bro. This is making me excited, bro, because I love Iron Man, bro. I want him to come back, you know what I'm saying? He probably found a way. And in this deleted scene, they probably deleted this scene because they like, hold on, we want to say this because we gonna reveal a lot of what Tony Stark did in Doomsday, you know what I'm saying? Because maybe this really is Tony Stark, who's Doctor Doom, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that was the only way he felt like he can really, you know what I mean? Who knows? Or maybe not, though. You know, maybe he just saw everything that Doctor Strange also saw. But also, he probably saw his own shit, too, you know? Because when I think about it, Doctor Strange maybe only saw all those possibilities through his own point of view, like where he survives in it, you know, type shit. So what if Tony Stark saw a version where he dies, but where he also survives? But Doctor Strange only saw a version where they actually won, but one of them actually died. Like somebody in the group died, but him. You know what I mean? Like, what if the Time Stone is protecting the person using it? So they show them the possibilities, majority of the possibilities where they're alive in it. You know what I mean? And what if Doctor Strange decides to choose the only possibility where he survives? Because all the other possibilities, maybe he didn't survive. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, though. You know what I'm saying? Because it is a little... Allegedly, Doctor Strange is finna switch teams. You know what I mean? So who knows?
In the first place, in order to avoid any context and not having to delve into any of this just yet, saving it for a future film that the Russos may or may have not known they were ever going to make. That said, it is fair to assume that if Tony foresaw his own death and sacrifice in order to get this job done as the 1 in 14,605,000 ways they would actually have victory, he might have also used the stones to do anything he could to avoid that. And in that moment, when he was about to snap to erase Thanos and all of his army, knowing that it would be his sacrifice, he could have also been using the stones in the same way that he told Hulk not to change anything else, to try to preserve himself and make sure he survived. And in doing so, with some combination of the stones, may have perverted his soul and or his existence to be reincarnated as Victor Von Doom. Now, that's a nice theory in and of itself.
I'm thinking
but it goes a lot deeper.
That's a good theory, bro.
Proof that Tony Stark was meant to become Doctor Doom the entire time. If we rewind to the film that we briefly mentioned in the prologue with Age of Ultron, the first time Tony Stark is interacting with an Infinity Stone in a meaningful way, every single time there's a scene with Tony Stark and the Infinity Stone, doom is foretold. The first time is in Act 1, when, given the vision by Wanda, again whose powers are tied to the Mind Stone, Tony Stark sees a vision in which all of the Avengers are dead and because of him at his hands. He believes this so much so that later in the film in Act 2, he tells Nick Fury, point blank, "I'm the man who killed the Avengers. I saw it. It's my legacy. I wasn't tricked. I was shown. I watched my friends die, and that's not even the worst part." And while Nick Fury's insistent that the vision is just because...
What if him saying that's not even the worst part? What if he saw himself becoming Doctor Doom? This is why I'm thinking, like, maybe he didn't steal the face. But they saying he did, though. So if he's, why would he have to steal his own face? Maybe he stole the face that wasn't, my bad, I hit my mic. Maybe he stole the face that wasn't as messed up or something like that. Maybe he thought, like, the face I got now, it's a little, like, my hair and stuff is not the same. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to choose the face where my hair and stuff is the same as, you know. Maybe that's why he changed his face. You know what I'm saying? Let's just put it that way. Because I really like All Fire's theory, bro. I really do. And I want the theory to be true because it is a real good theory. You know what I'm saying? But there's probably other good theories as well. But if Tony Stark saying he's the one who he probably saw himself become Doom. He probably is the one that becomes Doctor Doom. And maybe at the end of it, he probably reverts back to my old self or something like that, you know? But I do think these stones are finna come up again. Well, we already know he's Doctor Doom's gonna have the Infinity Gauntlet, most likely. He gonna have the 10 rings and, like, you know, he's finna have some power, you know? But I think these time stones is finna do some work again, bro. Well, I think the time stone in itself is going to be a key player in this bro. I do.
Because of Wanda, and at the time we took the scene to sort of foretell Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, perhaps there was a deeper meaning, and certainly with the new context and details revealed for Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, Tony Stark plus Infinity Stone equals not great future. And they reiterate this point blank at the very beginning of the next act. That's the conversation between Banner and Tony talking about a suit of armor around the world. Banner tells him that sounds like a cold world. Tony responds, "I've seen colder." That scene is Tony interacting with the Mind Stone and attempting to use it, scaffold it off Jarvis, and create his Ultron project. So again, Tony Stark plus Infinity Stone equals disaster. And at the same time, this scene is establishing a ton of important characters.
Bro, he's pretty much already sent, like, him saying that, putting a suit of armor over the world, and then him and Banner having that little discussion is kind of already foretelling him being Doom. Because what if Doom's suit of armor world, you know, over the world is him creating one world where there's no villains and shit, like, you know? This theory is crazy, bro. I'm liking it.
And again, given the context of what we now know would come in the Infinity Saga and Avengers Doomsday, back during Age of Ultron, he had the technology to both analyze and harness the power of, technically use, an Infinity Stone. A lot of tech had been established by Tony Stark in between Age of Ultron and when he would have had these stones in Avengers Endgame. So not only does it establish the means by which he may have been able to access the power of, say, the Time Stone to look into the future, but also the willingness and experience in doing so. Plus, the stakes at the time were, hey, we only have the Mind Stone for 3 days. The stakes at this point in time, when he has all of the Infinity Stones, is we only have a 1 in 14,605 shot of getting this right.
Which is why I think he
neither of these accounts during Age of Ultron take into account what is said during the third act right before Vision ends the last version of Ultron. He specifically says in point blank, they're doomed. The same Ultron that was created by Tony Stark took one look at humanity and decided it needed to be destroyed, perhaps because he foresaw what would happen if Tony Stark was allowed to eventually become Doctor Doom. Destroying all of humanity on Earth in the 616 is a much better call than Doctor Doom destroying the entire multiverse. And while much has been made of the Doom comment, why Ultron would specifically say it the way that he did, words do matter, the same way they used Endgame in Avengers Ultron to foretell the 4th Avengers title. Here, they could have been foreshadowing the 5th one as well. Now, there is one more part of this. There's proof that Tony Stark's mortality was also on his mind alongside the odds because of the holographic message he made that played during his funeral. Now, it's important to note from the dialogue he says throughout leading up to this scene that we know for sure this was done the night before they set off for the time heist, and it's undeclared how much time happened in between when they got the Infinity Stones after the time heist and when they actually attempted to put them in the Stark Gauntlet and do the snap and blip. So him saying goodbye to his daughter was presumably an intention of him possibly dying during the time heist, but he also says in that message, in the case of an untimely death on my part, almost as if he's aware that he may die in the upcoming events. So for sure, while he wouldn't have had any of the stones yet while he was making this goodbye message, it was already on his mind before he had the stones. Then all of a sudden he would have the same time stone Doctor Strange had with his mortality on his mind. It's almost as if he may have looked into the future, not only to mistakenly find his own death, but to look specifically for it. Now, quite frankly, guys, I've spent a lot of time thinking about theories like this, and it's occurred to me that Doom looking like Tony Stark is probably only attributable to one of them. Meaning, Tony Stark may be responsible for coming back as Victor Von Doom, but he's not responsible if Victor Von Doom stole his identity, so to speak.
That's what I'm saying, bro. If Victor Von Doom stole Tony Stark's identity, then I wouldn't think he's Tony Stark, right? So that's why I'm like, this theory sounds really good if the stealing face thing ain't really what it is, you know? Because if he ain't really stealing Tony Stark's face, this theory right here makes the most sense, bro. Especially everything he just glued into, bro. And I really like it, bro. That's why I'm sitting here quiet, bro, because I'm like, this theory is beautiful, you know what I'm saying? Guaranteed for the next videos, bro, I'm gonna be bringing these theories up, bro, because yeah, I like the whole prophecy thing right now. You know,
the fact that Tony Stark was who he was to the 616
that could be
only really means as much emotionally to the characters who were invested in him. And as I've pointed out countless times here at the channel, both iterations of the current Avengers, one of which headed by Bucky and Yelena, the other headed by Sam Wilson, Bucky and Sam Wilson do not have a good past at all with Tony Stark. He's responsible for their arrest. They were on opposite sides of Civil War. And considering those two were snapped back during the Battle of Avengers Endgame, it doesn't seem like there would have been any reconciliation that would have happened between any of them. So, a Victor Von Doom stealing Tony Stark's identity and then showing up trying to convince both of those Avengers teams to take his side.
Well, the reason why, bro, you gotta understand, Bucky killed Tony Stark's parents, though, you know what I'm saying? What? You lucky you my homie. Sam Wilson, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that could be worked out.
Be absolutely ridiculous. And this is why I don't think he's after Steve Rogers as an enemy. I think he wants Steve Rogers as an ally. So when he does get to the 616, while Bucky and Sam may not side with him, they'll certainly side with Steve Rogers, who if he can convince to be on his side, ipso facto, he has the Avengers. And who he needs and wants them for is to take on Loki, who will be easy to convince everybody that he's still a villain, even though they haven't seen what happened during Loki Season 1 and Season 2. That's exactly it. They haven't seen the rehabilitation that he's gone through, the arc that he's had. They may just assume he's still the villain that he was and from the first Battle of New York. And so while this...
Damn, that's crazy, bro. They don't know what happened to him in the Loki seasons. Is it only Thor who know? Or Thor don't know really either? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's his brother, so he always gonna have a little soft spot for him. You feel me? But damn, are they gonna see Loki as a villain for part of the movie too? Bro, the plot twist they can do in these upcoming movies, bro, is insane, bro. And I hope they try to do every single one.
This is, to me, one of the more plausible theories we've put forward at the channel. It's mutually exclusive again whether Tony is responsible for Victor Von Doom looking like him, or Victor Von Doom is responsible for stealing his identity. And in this case, while we don't know which one it is just yet, this is the first plausible motivation I've heard for why Tony would and could have done something with the Infinity Stones that could have ended up resurrecting him as Victor Von Doom. But ultimately, I leave that decision to you guys as we all eagerly await the answer via the upcoming Avengers Doomsday film. This is not something that I think will be answered or even merely...
Based on everything bro has said and connected together, bro, I think this theory right here is probably what might be happening, bro. It makes the most sense. And then they did say Endgame or one of the Avenger movies is a like direct sequel to Doomsday, or Doomsday is a direct sequel to one of those. You know what I'm saying? But his theory makes so much sense, bro. I really like the theory, bro, because you have evidence of it, you know what I'm saying? But it's just the steal the face part that can break that whole theory apart. You know what I mean? If Dr. Doom steals Tony Stark's face, that entire theory is over with. Did Marvel confirm the stealing face thing? Did they confirm that? Like them themselves? You know what I'm saying? Let it be known.